Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome. Today we're going to talk about some TIG welding pulse settings. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode from Pacific Arc TIG Welding. My name's Dusty. For all the arc heads who watch the show every week, what's up? Welcome back. To anybody that might be new to the channel, what's up? Thanks for checking this out. My name's Dusty. On this channel, we do everything TIG welding related. I do all kinds of crazy art projects on this channel. We do TIG welding gear breakdowns. We do TIG welding gear reviews. We do technique reviews, demos, and how-tos. So if you're new to the channel, I encourage you to jump back and check out the episodes previous to this one. So today, I'm probably going to answer one of the most common questions that I get in a lot of my episodes. When I do the episodes on my TIG welding art projects, so I do, again, jump back and check them out if you haven't seen them. They're all in the description below, so you can check those links out as well. Every time I put one of these episodes out, I always get the question is, do I use pulse and what are my settings for pulse? And the answer to this question is no. I virtually never ever use pulse for my art projects. So if you want to, I will put a couple links in the description right below. And these are two episodes I did not that long ago where somebody was asking on how to set up a proper pulse setting. So one of the first ones I did was a pulse weld. So it's basically two super thin pieces of aluminum. I did an autogenous weld, so that's a weld with no filler rod. I did a pulse setting on how to run really thin stuff and run a nice clean bead. So check that one out in the description below. That actually we go over like proper settings on how to set up pulse settings on your machine. So if you popped onto this video today expecting to find out some pulse settings, you're probably not going to get them in this episode, but jump back into that one and I will explain everything in super thorough detail on that one. As well in the description, I'll put a link to another episode that was kind of similar to that one. We welded some really thin type aluminums, basically the same joint as that first video I was talking about with the pulse settings. But this one I do it kind of my way, or at least the way I prefer. And this is basically using filler rod as a cooling technique. So those two episodes, like I said, are in the description below. You can check out the links to both. You can watch them if you want to learn how to set up a machine properly with proper pulse settings. You can watch them. And you can also watch the one where I use no pulse settings, but I use more foot pedal technique and filler rod. You can kind of compare the two and see which you prefer. And you can try everything out and let me know how it goes. But one thing I did not go over in those episodes was how I do pulse for my art pieces. So when I'm doing my art pieces, again, I'll show them on screen right now. These are all pieces that I've done over the past like 6 or 7 months. It's something I've been practicing for a really long time and only recently have just actually started sharing them on my YouTube channel and actually filming them. So not only am I welding them and taking all the time to weld them, but I'm filming them as well to put them out on my channel. That's kind of something I really prefer to do on this channel, so there'll be more coming. And again, if you haven't checked those out, jump back and check them out. They're a lot of fun to do and I'm definitely the most proud of those videos because they're super difficult. They take me a long time to do. It's obviously a lot of practice and playing around with the machine. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll go over how I do my pulse technique for these art pieces in this episode today. So basically what I do for these is something I call the foot pump technique. So the foot pump technique is not like the pump shoes from the 90s you may remember. I think I used to have a pair of those. They were pretty dope, but yeah, that's not the same thing. So what we're doing today is basically we're setting up our machine basically to just run straight DC negative. So on DC negative, obviously, as most people who weld steel before know, DC negative is the polarity that you weld steel on, as most people who probably watch this channel know. But if you're looking to get into some art pieces and try this out, basically what I'll do when I set up to weld a art piece, I'll set up on DC negative anywhere, depending on how thick of plate I'm running. Sometimes I run stuff that's as thin as 1/8 inch material, 3.2 millimeters or so. All the way up to about 1/4 inch material, which is about 6.4 millimeter. So my current range will probably be anywhere between 90 amps on the thin side to probably about 120 to 130 or maybe even 140 amps, depending what I'm doing. But I will not program a pulse setting. What I'll do is what I'm talking about here, and I'll show it on the screen. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm pumping with my foot. So the pumping basically is me dictating, obviously it's the same thing as what you're gonna do with a pulse setting. You're gonna set your pulse setting and then you're gonna use your foot pedal to go up and down to kind of stay within the current range you wanna be. But what I'm doing here is basically, here's the difference. When I'm doing it with my foot and I'm pumping up and down, what I'm doing here is I'm basically picking how long I want my pulses to be. So yes, I know you can set your pulses on your machine to be longer or shorter, obviously quicker or faster, or however you want to say it. But what I do is I tend to find that as I go in and out in between thick and thin lines, wider weaves, I do a lot of passes that have obviously extra fill because I want them to pop up a little bit more. Those tend to develop a little more color. I like color. I don't care what anyone else says. And then also have passes where I want them to be really thin. Sometimes I don't even use filler rod. I'll just be doing autogenous, basically welding where I'm pumping with the foot pedal. I might dab a little bit here and there just to keep the heat from getting out of control. However, as you can see just by me describing this, and I'm showing the clips on screen right now of small welds and big welds, you can see that obviously you can't set a pulse setting on a machine to cover this variety of pulse timing and pulse frequency that you'll need to get the look of these welds that I'm after. So what I can do is when I've set up with my foot pedal, I can do longer and I can do quicker all in one pass. So I can basically do a weld that's a big fat 3 or 4 stepper, like a big weave where I'm going back and forth, taking a lot of time, and I can do all my pumps manually with my foot, and then that weld can actually taper down into something that's super narrow. And obviously I'll be using less filler rod as I get narrower and narrower, and obviously, like I said, I might even transition to using no filler rod with the really thin stuff, and that's when I will really need to change the frequency of what I'm doing with my foot pedal. So for example, like I said, if I did this with a machine setting, you can't do it all in one go. So that pass, it might be like, 3 or 4 inches long, that's a big fatty at one end, and then tapers down to just dot work at the other end. I'm not gonna be able to do that with a setting. I'm gonna have to obviously stop at points when I'm finished like a thick weave, maybe change my frequency a little bit so the pulses come a little bit faster on a time scale, but I'm not gonna, that takes too much time. I can't do that. I can't afford to spend, obviously with my art pieces, I spend 10 plus hours on those welding them, give or take, sometimes even more upward. I've had one weld piece that put me probably about 20 hours on the piece. So can you imagine how much longer that would be if I had to stop and change my pulse settings all the time? So that's why the foot pedal technique is something I really encourage a lot of people to play with. You learn a lot more about your heat control because you learn about how much you need to hold a pulse on, hold a pulse off. You'll start to see point of diminishing returns where you hold a pulse on and then it will overheat. So yeah, you'll tend to learn a little bit more about the threshold of where your pulse settings are at. That's why I encourage everybody to try it out for yourself and kind of just play with it, have some fun. Do some big thick weaves on one end and then taper down to something real thin. And that's a good way to practice. So for today, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna set up 2 cameras so we can see, well, I already have 2 cameras running, but what we can do is we'll put one on the foot pedal so that what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna mock up a little line here. We can do something, like I said, we'll start out real thick with using filler rod, and then I'll work my way towards the thinner end, and you can kind of watch what I'm doing with the foot pedal down on the floor here. All right, so I got a piece of stainless steel here. This is 304 stainless steel, pretty standard stuff. I have used this for another project, just some tester stuff, so I ground it off. It's been hit with acetone and wire brush, it's nice and clean, but now I'm gonna draw some, obviously draw some marker on it just for some lines to follow here. So we'll start out a little thicker on one end, maybe start with like a 3-stepper, work my way down to a 2-stepper, and then just fire off with some thin stuff at the end. There we go, so we got a line to follow here. So this will kind of give you an idea of, obviously, like I said, we'll need a little more time with the thicker stuff on this end. I'll maybe do a 3-stepper across here, step it down to 2-step probably around here somewhere in the middle, and then I'll finish off real thin with some autogenous pulsing on the end there. So let's give her a whirl. Okay, so fire up the machine here. There we go, just wait for the fan to turn off here in a sec, hang on. Here we go. It's the nice thing about this machine, the fan turns off after not using it for a few seconds. If you haven't seen this CANAWELD 201 Pulse D, I did a full episode review on it. You can check it out. I'll put the link in the description below as well. That was a lot of fun. We broke down everything to do with this machine, all the stock setup. Obviously, I got a CK torch. Shout out to CK Worldwide for an awesome torch. And yeah, so everything's been upgraded a little bit with this machine, but most of all, it's pretty stock. I got the stock foot pedal running right here. Yeah, again, I'll go over all this on my review of the machine, so check that out. But let's see what we got here. So I'm running DC negative, obviously, for steel. What am I doing for amps? Let's back this off. It's a thicker piece of material, but it's not that big, so let's just play around and see what we got here. 100 amps, we'll go with that. About 5, let's turn that up to about 6 seconds of post flow, because we want good gas. A little bit of pre, no upslope. There we go, simple as that. Okay, so we're all set up here. Turn the fan on. There we go, so we're up and running. Okay, so real quick, again, like I said, I'm using the CK Worldwide. This is the CK9 style torch. Shout out to Edge Welding, Edge Custom Cups. Oh my gosh, I love these things. Thank you guys so much for sending all these to me to play around with. They've been a lot of fun to learn with. So this is a number 7 cup. They got their little adapter that goes over top of a standard gas lens. So again, this little adapter right here with the O-rings just goes over your gas lens, and then your cup just slides over the O-rings, and then it's all ready to rock. So we're running 15 CFH through our gas regulator. That's pure argon. So yeah, there it is. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna start here. We'll try a 3-stepper to start with. I don't know when I'll transition to 2, but then I'll try and finish off real light, so you'll see the difference with everything here. Here we go. As you can see, I'm adding a decent amount of fill in here, not a ton, but enough. Definitely a little too much coffee, my hands are shaky. Reposition my plate. Okay, so now I'm going to step it down to little 2-steppers, so it'll just be like a standard weave, and then I'll finish it off with, just like I said, autogenous pulsing. Alright, here we go. And I'm just going to step it down to a big single one. Look at that squeaky foot power, you hear that? Now I'm going to stop using fill for this last little pass. With the foot pulses. All right, let's stop and take a look at it. Okay, so we got some good stuff to look at here. You can see overall, again, I like the color. A lot of people tell you that color is oxide. They are correct. However, when you're doing something like an art piece, it's not structural, it's just for fun, and it's something I love doing, and I really like having color, so I actually tend to blow it up a little bit with a little more little more colors as I can. So this piece I'm pretty stoked on. It's got some purples, some blues, and then you obviously got lots of gold in there too, which is nice, a good contrast. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a quick look over it here. You can kind of see the difference of what I did there in the past. So let's break this down. How it works as far as it goes with using filler rod. Filler rod tends to act as a bit of a cooling agent. So this is 1/16 filler rod here. So I put it in very lightly. And then what I was doing was I was kind of freezing it. So when I was putting the filler rod in, I would tend to let it do its thing, and then I would choke it off by removing the heat with the foot pedal pretty quick. It tends to cause what I call puddle freeze, where your puddle tends to just obviously freeze in its spot there. Now you can see here, so this pass along the top here tended to be probably my coldest pass. So the order that I welded would always be starting at the top, 1, 2, 3, advance, 1, 2, 3, advance, 1, 2, 3. So by the time we got to the third row of each one, obviously you can tell because it was a little hotter, you tended to get a little more color. So a little more color tends to mean that it's a little bit hotter, obviously forming a little bit more oxide. Whereas the top row for most of this first chunk here that I did was obviously the coldest, because you see the gold color for most people that TIG weld, and if you don't know, gold is definitely tending to probably be the best color that you're looking for, like a gold or a straw color. That means there's no oxide that's formed. But there you go. So we could tell I added filler rod, which helped keep it a little bit cool, as well as letting the gas run a little bit light, in my opinion, so that I basically ended up getting a little more color, which is awesome because I like color. I don't care what you say. And then from the second pass here, we moved on to our two-stepping. Again, my hands were so shaky on this one. I was just, same pattern, started at the top and then went down, advance, up top, down, advance, up top. But because we're running a little bit narrower of a pass here, we tended to get a little less heating up, a little more gold in this one, especially on the bottom row. And then around here, when I switched up, I realized we were getting a little tight. This puddle here, that one kind of sucks. I don't like that one. When I switched into single, just single stepping with fill, obviously we're going to get more color again, because now we are staying in one spot longer, and one spot longer means a little bit more heat, which means a little more oxide form. So as I got a little bit colder, and again you can see I switched to autogenous, which means welding with no fill, pulsing probably about here. And then on my way out, you had less and less oxide. That's why it got pretty much silver near the end there, gold. And then this is your colored stuff, where I was using a little bit slower of a speed, and it heated up a little bit more. But there you go. That's the way you can kind of break down your TIG weld and see where you were too hot, where you were too cold, where you used enough fill. Maybe you could have used a little bit more fill. But basically, that's a good example of the spectrum of throwing like mad amounts of fill and time on one end, and then just using a little bit more speed, autogenous near the end there with no fill, where I was just pumping my way out just to make it look like super narrow and super flat. A lot of the time with some of my art projects, I actually like to have a little bit more buildup on one side and a little more flat on other areas, because it kind of gives a nice depth of field, which is cool. It's fun to play with the art pieces. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that one. I actually enjoyed that one, aside from it being super shaky. So again, I encourage you to give this a try for yourself. If you've never tried it with just a straight foot pedal technique like I did there, go for it. It's a lot of fun. Again, thank you very much for checking this one out. This one was fun. I apologize, I was so shaky. I was up super late last night. I was working on an art piece over here, and then after I was done, I was just goofing around in here. I was playing drums and playing guitar, and just up super late, and lots of coffee this morning. So again, I was a little bit shaky, but we got her done. We got a nice little weld here, so I could show everyone kind of how I do some of my art pieces. You'll be playing around with this quite a bit, I think, when you get into it and actually kind of learning the threshold of, like I said, too long is going to equal more color and more oxidization. So you'll need to kind of learn your threshold with your machine, as well as your gas lens, working pressure out of your gas bottle and everything like that. So a lot of variables, but it's fun to play around with. And I find it gives you a little more freedom, like I said, to do the pulsing yourself with your foot, as opposed to letting the machine do it for you with settings. So again, try it out, see what you think. I really like doing these kind of demos where we just goof around with stuff in here, and it's practice for me, which is cool. So if you enjoyed it, thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share on the channel here. The more subscribers and the more people that watch these videos, the more videos I'll make. So I really appreciate it if you help kind of spread the stuff I'm doing here. If you're not already, follow me on social media. There's my handle for Instagram right there. You can send me messages. That's kind of where I'm tending to talk to people a little bit more now. YouTube comments are coming a little bit too fast and furious. I can't always keep up with them. I try and hit everybody back that I can, but for the most part, if you really want to get a hold of me and ask me some questions, hit me up on Instagram through a direct message through there, as well as on my screen right here is my website. On my website, you can go on there. I have a blog about TIG welding. I kind of just started that recently, so I've just been kind of, I don't know what you call it, just journaling or whatever on the blog. It's a lot of fun doing that. A lot of stuff, it's just all about TIG welding. I just talk about the stuff I'm up to with the channel, as well as my website. I put gallery and stuff up there. I have an online program where I teach people how to TIG weld online, which has been a lot of fun. It's going really well so far with students, so check that out. All the information's on my website. But again, everybody that watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone's doing well out there right now. We're just kind of in summer mode here on Vancouver Island. I'm loving it, and everything's pretty chill here lately, so I hope everybody's doing really well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, share it with friends if you can, but otherwise, hope you're doing good. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.